Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have the final of a three-part series here on my channel where we've looked at the best defenders, midfielders, and today we finish with the best forwards in FPL for Game Week 1 and beyond. If you are enjoying this series and you're enjoying the content here on this channel, smash the like button, comment down below to feed the algorithm gods, make sure to subscribe as we're trying to hit 20,000 subscribers before Game Week 1. But without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So guys, in this first section of the video, we're going to look at the 5.5 million to 7 million pound forward price bracket. Quite a large price bracket, but for the reason for that is there aren't as many forwards in FPL as the other positions. And even in this price bracket, I don't think there are a massive amount of options. That being said, there really are some gems in here and some players which are potentially going under the radar. There are a few options in here that maybe I wouldn't necessarily pick myself, but I've just chucked in there because they have got a few percent of people that own them, and I think they're worth discussing nonetheless. Starting with Undav of Brighton, looks like an excellent option. Ridiculous amount of attacking returns, something like 41 attacking returns last season in all competitions. So by all accounts, looks like a real goal scorer. Got some creativity as well, performing relatively well in pre-season. I suppose the issue is, at the time of recording, they still have Neil Maupay and Welbeck. There have been talks about potentially selling Maupay. If they don't do so, they've got three strikers to play for one position. Potentially, they could get two of them on the pitch. But I suppose it's whether you think he's going to be integrated straight into that starting 11, or whether you think there might be a little bit of time and he might be eased in slowly. Brighton have excellent fixtures. We've spoken about this. Third best fixtures from an attacking perspective. So Brighton's certainly a team that you might want to look at. And they were actually pretty decent from an attacking perspective last season with respect to creating chances. They just didn't actually finish many of those chances, which is one of the main reasons they've signed Undav. So at 5.5 million, he would probably be my top choice. I've put Broja on here. If he stays at Chelsea, Broja is almost definitely not an option. There's been rumours of him going to Everton and to Newcastle. There have been rumours of West Ham. But at the time of me recording, it looks like they've signed, I think it's Skamaka. Apologies if that's not how you pronounce it. West Ham look like they've signed another striker, which would make Broja basically a non-option for them. They've probably looked like they've stopped pursuing Broja. So if Broja gets a move to another club in the Premier League, he does become a serious option. That being said, his data was actually shockingly bad. It's the worst on this list at 0.29 non-penalty expected goal involvement. So even if he gets a move, I don't think he suddenly becomes the best striker in the game at that cheap price point. I would arguably still maybe prefer Undav or just go up to £6 million. So really, I don't think, unfortunately, there are many options 5.5 or below. You've got Gelhardt in there. There are a couple at 5. 4.5s, there are a couple that might get some minutes. But for me, you're probably looking at 6 million and above. And we actually have sort of four options from sort of newly promoted teams. So we've got Johnson, Awoniyi, Solanke, and Mitrovic. Mitrovic is, of course, 6.5 million. All four of those look like they could be really excellent options. I like the look of all of them. Johnson and Awoniyi in particular look fantastic. I have got their non-penalty expected goal involvement. This is taken from Infogol. I can't verify how accurate that is. It's not a site that I would usually take expected data from. It's just difficult to try and get this data from different leagues that isn't the Premier League. So Solanke and Mitrovic look like they've got ridiculously good underlying data. They got so many attacking returns last season. And the FPL review algorithm actually really likes them. You can see Mitrovic at 18.5 projected points is actually second best on this list. Solanke's up there as this joint third or joint fourth best on this list as well. So by all accounts, maybe we're ignoring these newly promoted teams and we shouldn't be. What I would say is Bournemouth and Fulham's fixtures aren't great. That's why at the moment I'm not personally considering any Bournemouth or Fulham players, apart from Andreas Pereira, of course, as a cheap midfielder. I just think I need to wait for the fixtures to clear up, and this will give us a bit of an idea about how good these players are going to be in the Prem. The ones that I am considering, if I go for a cheaper forward, is Johnson and Awoniyi. Johnson's underlying data wasn't quite as good as Awoniyi's. However, I've spoken to a few Nottingham Forest fans, 3 different fans, all seem to think that unless he misses one early on, Brennan Johnson will stay on penalties. But Awoniyi took penalties for Union Berlin. So there's a chance that either of them could be on pens. Whoever is on pens might just about edge it for me. But I think at £6 million could be really nice options. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a massive amount of data for some of these players, but maybe just worth keeping an eye on. We've then got two Brentford boys. We've got Mbeumo at 6 million and Tony at 7 million. I think both of these could represent good value at points. They've got pretty good fixtures, the 5th best in the Premier League from an attacking perspective, as you can see there. Neither of them have great underlying data, though. Mbeumo at 0.38 non-penalty expected goal involvement. Tony at 0.44 non-penalty expected goal involvement. So nothing to write home about particularly, but Tony is on penalties. And when you put penalties in, he does push that number above 0.5. So whilst Mbeumo is saving you £1 million, and £1 million is a lot at this point of the season when you've got only 100 million to play with, I think Tony is still the one for me. And I think if I were to go for a Brentford attacker and it wasn't someone like Visser in midfield, I would probably go for Tony. So I still think Tony's one of the best options on this list. Still worth considering. As you can see, highest projected points on this list, best points per start last season. You would expect him to continue to improve as well. There have been rumours about Tony potentially being picked up by some bigger clubs, but at the time of me recording this, nothing concrete. And I think he should be staying at Brentford for another season. Final thing on Tony, Eriksen leaving and going to Manchester United obviously does make it a little bit tricky. We don't know how he'll do without Eriksen in the team. A little bit of creativity lost there, but De Silva is back, and I do expect Brentford to kick on. So it might be a wait and see for Brentford. The first two fixtures aren't fantastic. I think it's Leicester and Manchester United for Brentford. So maybe you monitor, go with someone else for the first two and then have a look. If you do want to go for someone else for the first two and then maybe move to Tony, Jimenez does have great fixtures, right, against Leeds and Fulham. Now, in the recent preseason game, he did come off early, looked like he might have picked up an injury. So something to monitor. Again, I'm having to record this a few days before it goes live because I'm currently in Ireland for an FPL meetup, which is pretty cool to do. But I'm unfortunately, like I said, recording this a few days before. So I don't know what the latest is on Jimenez's injury. If he's not injured, he is an option. He didn't look great since his injury. He's not looked the same, but he is still a talented player. I do expect Wolves to improve this season. So maybe Jimenez is one to consider for the first two games against Leeds and Fulham. If he's fit, then move to Ivan Toney. And then to finish with my boy, Anthony Martial. Of course, if you've watched my channel for a while, you've watched a few of my videos, I'm a Manchester United fan. I'm incredibly excited by Martial. This all does hinge again on the fact of if we sell Ronaldo. At the time of me recording this, there's been no update. I would assume, based on everything that I've seen, Ronaldo stays. I hope he doesn't, to be honest. I think we look like a better side without Ronaldo. If Ronaldo stays, I still think Martial starts the season. I still think Martial starts against Brighton at home in Gameweek 1 as our starting striker. But he's not a long-term option as a result if we've got Ronaldo, because Ronaldo will be getting minutes. So Martial, for me, if Ronaldo leaves, I can almost guarantee you Martial's going to be in my starting 11. If Ronaldo doesn't leave, I can almost guarantee you Martial isn't going to be my starting 11. So it really does hinge on that. I just think he's a great option. Last season, or this last season that he played in the Prem, 0.39, it was the beginning of last season, I should say. His underlying data wasn't fantastic, but the season before that, and the season before that as well, he was putting up some decent underlying data. So Martial is a player that when he turns it on, he can be exceptional. It's just whether he's going to continue what we've seen in pre-season. He's been exceptional in pre-season. The whole Manchester United front three have been. We discussed Rashford and Sancho in the last video. So I'll be honest, out of everyone on this list, Martial is probably up there as one of my favourite options, but it really does depend on what happens with the striker situation at Manchester United. Outside of Martial, I think Tony and then one of the Nottingham Forest strikers at 6 million are the only others I'm really considering. I might consider Undav if we get some sort of indication that he's definitely starting for Brighton. The rest, for me, are wait and sees. And I think you've got probably more value in going for a 4.5 and then some of the more expensive strikers. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of them. So as you would expect, because they're more expensive, as a general price point and as a general price bracket, I much prefer the 7.5 to 8 million pound forwards. This is why I do think it's probably worth going with one cheaper forward that just sits on your bench, one mid-price forward, and one premium forward. And it's why we've seen so many people going with the template front two of Haaland/Kane, which we'll discuss in the next section, my opinions on those, and one probably Gabriel Jesus as the second one. I do think that all of the options on here at some point this season, assuming they all stay fit, which a lot of them probably won't, I assume all of these will be good value at some point, but I do think some stand out more so in Game Week 1, namely due to the fixtures. So I think Antonio, Bamford, Watkins, and Wilson, whilst I love all four of those, the fixtures really, as you can see, 16th, 13th, 15th, and 19th for the fixture ticker from an offensive perspective. So I don't dislike any of them as options. I just think that the fixtures aren't that fantastic. I do genuinely believe that Bamford will have a great season if he can stay fit. Everything that we've seen from him so far in the Premier is fantastic. It's just he really struggled with injuries last season. Even that being said, he had a non-penalty expected goal involvement of 0.53, which is the third best on this list. Antonio started the season so well last year, but the fact that they looks like they've signed a new striker. They were looking at Broyer as well. I worry about Antonio's minutes, and I worry about if he's got it in his legs to not get injured this season. He did so well last season to, for the large part, basically avoid getting injured. I'm just not so sure this season. So I would actually say that Antonio's probably my least favourite option on this list. I don't mind Bamford. Watkins and Wilson's data is just not great at 0.4 and 0.34 respectively. Wilson in particular, really disappointing, but they are both great strikers. They're going to play 90 minutes almost every week for their sides. Wilson's on penalties. There's a small chance Watkins could be at some points, but Wilson always feels like a good option. But considering how bad Newcastle were from an attacking perspective last season, considering they've got the second worst fixtures in the league, and considering how bad Wilson's underlying data is, they've got wood in their potential for a bit of rotation. I've been put off Wilson slightly. I probably won't be starting the season with Wilson. So As a result, none of the 7.5s at the moment interest me that much. DCL could be an option at points, depending on his fitness. Everton's fixtures are okay from an opening perspective. He's got the third best projected points on this list at 18.4 DCL. So at some point, Calvert-Lewin could be a good option. We're expecting him to be on penalties now that Richarlison's left. But again, along with the 4 7.5s, DCL is a bit of a wait and see for me. Realistically, the only two options that I'm really considering at the moment at this £8 million price bracket is Gabriel Jesus and Havertz, who both look fantastic for underlying data, fixtures, and the team data as well. So projected points, Gabriel Jesus is the best on this list by some distance at 22.1. Kai Havertz is actually the fourth the fourth best on this list at 18.1. So the FPL review algorithm doesn't massively fancy Havertz as a decent option. And as we spoke about in the previous videos on sort of this series here, Chelsea have struggled a little bit in pre-season thus far. I wouldn't read too much into it, but it's definitely worth paying a bit of attention to. Points per start, he was actually the second best out of everyone on this list last season. Non-penalty expected goal involvement, he was the second best on this list. And he's playing in, out of all of the players at this price point, the best team with the best fixtures. So I think personally Havertz doesn't get enough credit. Havertz has been in a couple of my recent drafts instead of Gabriel Jesus. I guess it's just that Jesus looks so good in pre-season and his underlying data is great. Now, that was for Manchester City, but by all accounts, it looks like he's going to continue to get a lot of chances for Arsenal. So unfortunately, as much as I like to break up the template and advise you to have a bit of fun and take some risks here and there, I don't necessarily know that the mid-price striker position is the place to do it. I think Gabriel Jesus, by all accounts, looks like the guy to go for. I don't mind Havertz, though. If you really still want another £8 million forward, Havertz deserves some attention. Good underlines, playing in a great team, at least last season. Great fixtures as well. Decent projected points. I really like him as an option. Let me know down below, out of the first list and the second list, what cheaper / mid-price strikers do you have? I assume most of you will have Jesus, but I'm always interested to hear if some other people have gone for some slightly different picks. So the final price bracket is the £9 million forwards and above. We've only got sort of two at 9 million in Darwin and Jota. You've then got two of those sort of in-between priced at Vardy and Ronaldo. And then we finish with Kane and Haaland. So there's not a great deal with the forwards to pick from. It's why everyone's front line looks so template. Just starting with Darwin and Jota, we don't have any underlying data for Darwin because we don't have available data from the Liga NOS in the Portuguese league. So I don't have a lot to give you there. He looked excellent, but with respect to underlying data, there's not a lot I can say. Jota, absolutely exceptional, like exceptional data. If you've been watching the entire series, I believe Jota has the third best non-penalty expected goal involvement in the league. Right, it's approaching the likes of Haaland and Salah as well. 0.78 non-penalty expected goal involvement is so good. His points per start last season was 6.1. I think because a lot of people see Jota as a troll because sometimes he fails to deliver at the points when a lot of FPL players actually have him. A lot of people think that he's not an excellent option, but when you look at this, he truly is. And as soon as Jota is back and available, and if he's starting regularly, he will enter my thinking even at £9 million. I think Darwin's definitely a good option to start the season because it looks like Jota won't be fit to start the season, or even if he is, won't be fully fit. The only issue you've got with Darwin is that Firmino looks back and fit and ready to go, and I still think that Klopp does value Firmino. So I think probably there are too many other good Liverpool players. You've got Alisson, Robertson, Trent, Salah, and Diaz. There's 5, even Van Dijk and Matip. I think there's enough good other Liverpool assets to choose from that would make me probably want to avoid Darwin and Jota for now. Obviously, if you're going to go for one, probably go for Darwin. I've spoken about Vardy in several videos. I just can't get my mind off of Vardy. I've just got it in my head that Vardy is going to absolutely explode from game week 1. It's not the easiest opening fixture, but I just think that in general, I really fancy Leicester to absolutely smash it from game week 1 onwards. Even over the first 6, as you can see, they're fixtures the 14th in the Premier League. I think that they could do really well. And Vardy is just one of those players that if you can get him on at the right time, he's fantastic. I owned him at the back end of last season. I captained him in one of, I think it was game week 37. He got me so many points. I think he got me a brace on the final day as well. So Vardy's really into my thinking, as is Maddison. I genuinely do believe if you start with a Leicester asset, it could be a really nice way into a differential option for the opening 5 to 6 game weeks. His underlying data last year was good, but actually the worst on this list at 0.56. So we know that Vardy, though, doesn't need that many opportunities. He almost always outperforms his expected data, so I wouldn't stress too much about that, but maybe it would suggest that there are some other options out there that you could go for. Ronaldo, it largely depends if he leaves or not. Like I said, I'm recording this a few days before it actually goes live. At the moment, it looks like he's going to stay, but probably not a game week 1 option. But 10.5 for Ronaldo, if he can recapture some of what we saw last season, he was actually one of the top scorers, right? He did quite well generally with his output and his underlying data. I do believe at some points, if Ronaldo finds that and he gets into the starting 11, he could be a decent option. If he doesn't, then all eyes on Martial. The two final players I've been wanting to do a video on Kane versus Haaland. I think it would make for a really interesting video, but it's so difficult to compare them when Haaland's just come to the Premier League. He's a lot younger, but he's injury prone. He's been playing in the Bundesliga. Kane's so consistent. He's been playing here for years, but it's almost impossible to choose and to compare between the two of them. You need to look at what is most important to you. Is it the opportunity for an explosive haul? Or they probably both have that. Is it underlying data? Haaland's is absolutely fantastic. Kane's was pretty average last year at 0.61. Is it 100% being on penalties? Because we don't know that Haaland is on penalties. There's been some talk that Mahrez might keep them. Is it fixtures? Is it captaincy rotation? Is it being nailed on? It really depends what matters to you, but they're both excellent options. They have the highest projected points, as you would expect, of all attackers. Haaland at 28.1, Kane at 26.7. So the FPL review algorithm just about prefers Haaland. And like I said, his non-penalty expected data is better. He's playing in a better team, and City have better fixtures. So at the moment, I'm still on Haaland. All eyes on the Community Shield, though. So this video it should go live just before the Community Shield. So all eyes on that. Whatever happens in the Community Shield, hopefully that'll give us a bit of an idea as to whether Haaland's fit or not, whether he's going to be able to start, whether he still looks good, how many minutes he plays there. It'll also give us a bit of an idea about Foden, Mahrez, etc. So all eyes on that match. That's going to be probably our last major piece of information there. I guess the safer option is to go for Kane in Game Week 1. And if Haaland does look fit and firing, you can always switch in Game Week 2. I just don't like booking transfers in, and I think it probably makes more sense to just pick the one that you think you're going to keep for the first 5 to 6 game weeks. Of course, I am going to ask you to comment down below, Kane and Haaland, where are you currently at? You can either say Kane, Haaland, both, or neither. Where are you currently thinking with this? At the moment, I'm just about on Haaland, but I could quite easily switch to Kane before Game Week 1. So guys, there you have it. I hope you did enjoy this video. I know it's probably not as exciting as the midfielders and defenders because there aren't as many forwards to pick from. A lot of them really aren't options at the moment. And I know a lot of us have probably got Jesus plus one of Kane and Haaland. But hopefully this still gave you a little bit to think about. And if you are looking for a cheaper striker or you're looking to mix it up a little bit, there are some great options. The Nottingham Forest players, Martial, Tony, maybe a Kai Havertz in there, even a Jamie Vardy. I do like some of the other options and don't feel like you've got to stick to the template of Jesus and a premium striker. That being said, it is the template for a reason, and I am currently on that current front two template. If you have enjoyed this 3-part series, smash the like button, comment down below to feed the algorithm gods. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe as well. We are trying to hit 20,000 subscribers before the start of Game Week 1. There will be videos right up until the Game Week 1 deadline. Of course, we're going to have the Game Week preview next week. We're going to have the team selection. There will be a deadline stream as well. So much content to come. Please do subscribe. But until next time, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.